I'm one more of those folks that's demanding an answer to that same question. Show me the law. Where is the law? Here's a song dedicated to the cause. And what happened to my audience? There it is. There we go. You stand here with your hand out, demanding that I pay the money that I work for. At least that's what you say. But what gives you that power? Who died and made you boss? I'm barely getting by today. I can't afford that loss. So if you don't show some legal obligation that I pay, put your hand back in your pocket, turn around and go away. There are folks who rot in prison because they didn't pay. And the troubles that their families have, well, they just won't go away. So many generations have had to live in fear. They dig and scrape and struggle to pay income tax each year. I've got a peaceful nature, and I don't like to fight, but you're pushing us against the wall, 'cause you won't do what's right. Show me the law. Show me the law. Yeah, I've got a peaceful nature, and I don't like to fight, but you're pushing us against the wall, 'cause you won't do what's right. I pay tax on my gasoline and for my property. I tax on all the things I buy, and when I go out to eat, Sherry Jackson, Aaron Russo, Eddie Brown, and Larkin Rose, Irwin Schiff, and Joseph Bannister showed we all paid through the nose. There are millions that have seen freedom to fascism this year. I suggest you quit your job, go out and find a new career. You say it's voluntary, like when you stop at a red light, but that law is written in the books. It's there in black and white. If no law says that we must file an income tax return, well, let's get all those 1040s, light a match, and watch them burn. Your income tax extortion plot won't work with me no more, so you may as well forget it. Turn around, but there's the door. Show me the law. Yeah, show me the law. Well, your income tax extortion plot won't work with me no more, so you may as well forget it. Turn around, but there's the door. The IRS, we now know, ain't no federal agency, and you ain't no federal agent. You've got no immunity. If you're wondering why your claim of jurisdiction we reject, it's because that anatomically your law is incorrect. I don't like intimidation, and I refuse to live in fear. I suggest you turn around and get your butt right out of here. 2,000 pages in a book, the IRS code. When you read it very carefully, you find that nothing's owed. Well, I did a little research, and I found income defined. Well, I ain't no corporation, so leave that argument behind. Yeah, you can stick your chest out, you can prance and you can strut, but you better do it someplace else before I kick your butt. Show me the law. Yeah, show me the law. No, you can stick your chest out, you can prance and you can strut, but you better do it someplace else before I kick your butt. The president, Congress, and the Senate know the fact, but they won't lift a finger. No, they won't stop the income tax, 'cause they've got their corporate buddies making fortunes from the war. To them, deaths are statistics, and they're just keeping score. I don't like intimidation, and I refuse to live in fear. I suggest you turn around, go out and find a new career. Well, we had a revolution here but show me the Lord. Yeah, show me the Lord. Well, if no law says that we must file an income tax return, let's get on those 1040s, light the match and watch them show me the Lord. Show me the law. The CD is out. It's right there at the table. It's the first cut on the new album. It just come out about a month and a half, 2 months ago. This is the new one, folks. It's called Music to Live For, Forever Vigilant. And that's the first cut on the album. So next time you pull up to the car at the stoplight with the blue glow underneath and the sound that's going... Where is it? Where'd my microphone go? Here it is. You're welcome. You know what I'm talking about, right? All right, well, get this album, crank it up, and let them have a taste of their own music. All right, well, I wanted to do that song for 2 reasons. Number 1, it got your attention. Number 2, it got everybody to sit down. And did I say 2 reasons? I meant 3. Bottom line here is that the whole point of us being here is because we are being subjected. Oh, cut it out. Go away. Stop it. Hey, stop that. Thank you. Let's do that. I'm having a little computer hissy fit over here. But, oh, it really is having a hissy fit. Hello. All right, I'll deal with you later. Just unplug it. Thank you. All right, well, the reason I wanted to play that song is because there are a lot of people out there. Get rid of this thing, too. There are a growing number of people, dare I say an entire legion of Americans, that realize that, yes, we have indeed been lied to. And I believe, what is it, over 90 million people last year didn't file income tax returns? I could be wrong about that, but I remember on the front page of Media Bypass, remember that magazine about 10 years ago? They were reporting then it was around 60 million, so I know it's more than that. But a lot of people are getting smart. They've seen it from Freedom to Fascism by the late, great Aaron Russo, and I think we all should keep him in our prayers. And a lot of folks have figured it out, and the IRS doesn't know what to do about it. And especially when you have people that are well-educated, well-placed in the movement, and well-informed as to what the laws do and do not say. And that's why I'm very pleased to be able to bring to the podium here a gentleman who has experienced, shall we say, a level of success that we all should be able to duplicate. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Cryer. Okay. You're tangling. You're tangling. There you go.
Thank you. Tommy, here you go. Stand right there. I'll pin you right there. You hold on. Got you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, David. In Sacramento, earlier this year, I had to follow that. Not an easy task. Good afternoon. Got in yesterday, flew in to John Wayne Airport here. Got off the airplane. We were under heavy sniper fire. You know, well, I mean, I say heavy. I've been under worse, but it was heavy. You know. Now my pastor for the last 20 years has told me that when somebody snipes at me and shoots at me and tries to kill me, that what I should do is kill them, then go to their house and kill their family, and then find their friends and kill them, and then kill everybody who's ever heard, uttered, or written this person's name, so that his memory is lost to history forever. And, you know, I used to do that. But, you know, I'm trying to clean up my image, and so I don't agree with what my pastor tells me so much anymore. I want him to teach my children that, but I don't want him to teach me that stuff now, because I want to look better. So I'm trying to quit. So I decided to do the civilized thing. I whipped out my cell phone, and I dialed 911. And I got the new California Automated Emergency Answering Response System. And I listened to the instructions, you know, welcome to the automated, you know, and I realized I had a computer. And so I listened and I listened and I listened. And finally I pressed 5 for English. And then it instructed me that, you know, if you've broken a nail, press 1 for the nearest nail salon. And I knew I was in California. Press 2 if you're experiencing an identification crisis. I finally listened along and I pressed 7 if you are under heavy sniper fire. Then I got another menu that asked me, it said, and I ended up pressing 2 for no one has been hit so far. And then I got a recording, I got piped into a recording that said, we have made a report of the incident, and if you need it for your insurance, you can obtain it after 3 days. So what I had to do was I had to turn around and kill the snipers, and then go to their houses, and, you know, I tried to straighten out. No, I tell you, I came into this airport for the first time in my life a little over a year ago for this conference. It was in February of 2007. I was a little boy in trouble. I had a beast on my tail, and this group helped. How many of you are here at this last year's conference? Thank you. Thank you. You helped in 2 ways. Number 1, you helped me by contributing to my expenses because the IRS had just totally destroyed my means of making a living, and it had driven me down to where I had no assets left. I'd had to sell my home. I even had to sell my boat. And, you know, I was down to the last peg. I was down to my magic over dollar. And that my grandfather gave me when I was about 6 years old. He said if I never lost it, I never spent it, I'd never be broke. Well, that was all it was between me and broke. That's been a magic dollar, though, it's worked. I've never been broke. I've been close. But thanks to you, and many, many more just like you, I pulled through that time. And I'm sitting here now looking back at that year and a month or so ago, and I just cannot, and I know that in the program it said, you know, hear about the case and the trial, and I'm going to save some time, because I didn't note the time, for some Q&A, whatever, a little bit later on, and questions you have about the trial. But I think that most folks have heard somewhat about the story. But what really has pounded on me for this week in thinking about coming here to talk to you folks again is the huge difference that 1 year has made in this movement. How far you have come. When I got here, I had no earthly idea what tax honesty movement was. Didn't even know one existed until right about that time. And I'm meeting people who are telling me that if you pull out a UCC, state laws, that these state laws can overturn federal tax laws and Supreme Court constitutional law. I've had others telling me, oh, if you've got a contract situation because you've got a Social Security number, you've lost it. I had another one that told me that, you know, that I could refuse to have a trial there because they've got a yellow fringe around the flag. And I'm beginning to wonder about the tax honesty community at that point. And then I started meeting more and more and more people who are just like everybody else that I know and have met in this movement. And even the ones that were talking about the yellow fringe, even the ones that were talking about the UCC, all of them have one thing in common, and that is that they intend to die in a free country. We were all born in a free country, or more or less, and we were all promised one and we're guaranteed one, but we've lost it, And these people that I'm looking at today are my heroes, because all of you are here because you choose to be, because you are determined to get it back. And I'm here to fight with you to the last breath to get it back. A little after that conference, I was scheduled to be in Washington, D.C. at the We the People conference. And in leading up to that, and after my meeting with folks here, I was become more and more aware of what else was going on in the tax honesty community. I'd become more and more aware of the different groups, the different philosophies, the different schools of thought, the different dynamics, the egos involved, the money involved. And I was writing Larry Beecraft one night an email, and I was venting, talking about how torn, how fragmented, how weak, because it was torn and fragmented, this tax honesty movement was, and how concerned I was that all these people were spending so much energy and not going anywhere, and that energy is, it deserved to make some progress. It deserves to make a difference. And it's not going to happen until these people get their heads together and they all start pulling in the same direction. And they all got to quit fighting around with each other. There were people that you had to be careful about whether you said this name around that guy because they weren't speaking anymore. Now, does that sound like somebody that's out trying to accomplish something, or does it sound like somebody that's just kind of mired, stuck? I said, they've got to get together. These people ought to get to me. I thought, as I was typing along on this email, I said, as a matter of fact, I'm going to copy Bob Schultz, because that's where I was going with this. And I'm going to copy Paymon, because we just got back from this. Well, I think I'm going to copy so-and-so too, and such. And I copied them. Well, lo and behold, all of a sudden, I get these responses back saying, we'll be in D.C. Let's get our heads together. All right, fine. That's wonderful. All these people coming together in one place, and they're going to start figuring out how can we do something. Well, then about a week before the conference, 4 or 5 days before the conference, I get another email. It was a forward from Joe to Bill or whatever. And they're saying, boy, said, I'm looking forward to hearing about this. And in this email, one of them was telling another one that Tom Cryer was coming to Washington, D.C. on March the 29th, today, a year ago today, to deliver his plan for putting the movement back on track, or on track. I didn't have a plan. wasn't my plan. I had a case to try, Of 2 weeks after D.C., I'm going to trial. I did all the thing I could do. I made a plan. I did an all-nighter, and I wrote a book called Truth Attack. And this book analyzed the same way that I would analyze a military mission. It analyzed the lay of the land. It analyzed the assets. There's ours. It analyzed the liabilities. There's ours. It talked about means of taking their assets and denying them the benefit of them by creating liabilities out of their assets and turning them against them, turn their own weight against them. It talked about how we can take our liabilities, which is that we're few in number, and turn it into an asset, because we can be managed a little bit better. We can be guided a little bit better. And as we get bigger, then we can guide bigger, because we'll be better. But it talked about all of these things, and then it developed a plan. And I called this plan called Truth Attack. Had it printed up real quick, and Gary Thomason, president of Truth Attack, agreed to ride up there to keep me from sleeping and going to sleep on the wheel and roll it off in the ditch. And he did most of the driving. And we got up there to Washington, D.C., and I unloaded a box of these books and handed them out to Steve Hempling, Paymon, Bob Schultz, all kinds of folks that were there. Everybody was there. Fred Smart, a lot of the movers and the shakers, people that you know and have heard of. And I said, study this, and Saturday night, which was going to be the 29th, we're going to study on it. We're going to talk about it. So we had our meeting, and everybody decided, hey, this is a great idea. Hey, this is wonderful. Hey, this could work. And I said, well, somebody's going to have to pick up the ball and be the lead. I've got a case to try, and you guys decide which one of you, because you can't all do it at the same time. You know, one has to move, make the move, and the others have to help. And nobody stood up. After that meeting, I got a call and an email notifying me that the government had asked for a continuance, and the court had already granted it. My case had been put off. So on the way back, Gary Thomason and I decided somebody's got to do it. So we notified everybody, okay, we'll take the lead to get it started, and everybody's going to pull together. We're not going to push and shove. We're not going to compete. We're not going to worry about who gets credit, because none of us can do it. It's going to take all of us, so let's give all of us credit, all right? And that includes you guys, because y'all are the ones that really make it happen. And lo and behold, the thing is taken off. End of April of last year, we opened that website. And these guys, Paymon, Steve Hempfling was the first truth trooper to enlist. Every time that, and I get reminded of that because when I pull up the database, his is the first record in that database. And I see it right there every time. And I remember that Steve Hempfling was the first truth trooper to enlist. These guys got behind it. And they helped me, and they pushed, and they're helping you by pushing. And what we have seen that happen in the last year has been just absolutely phenomenal. A lot of the times you don't see what goes on in the back, behind the scenes of these conferences. A lot of work, an awful lot of work. I've done events like this before. It's an incredible amount of work that these people put, like Paymon and his staff and April and the same thing with Steve with his in Sacramento, same thing with this one in Dallas. There's an incredible amount of work that they go to. And what I've seen in this one, for example, is that in order to help, to encourage and bring in additional participation in this conference, instead of different groups competing for your attention, instead of different groups competing for your attendance, I'm seeing groups rallying to help support this conference. The Sacramento conference with Steve Hempfling, Free Enterprise Society. The other groups were supporting and promoting. They weren't competing. I'm starting to see people actually join hands and work together. And I think that because they see the benefits of it. Truth Attack called for a meetup of truth troopers. How many truth troopers we got in here? All right, all right. You can be a truth trooper. All you have to do is sign up back there at the Truth Attack table. It doesn't cost a penny. And it gets you your newsletters, gets you updates, and gets you what's going on. We've got a lot on the drawing boards, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be doing a lot. Now, what have you seen then later on in the year? That was all in April that happened. Then in July, boy, it's been a wild year. In July, a little fat, simple country lawyer in Shreveport, Louisiana, stood up and listened to a jury say, leave this man alone because he is not guilty. Sometimes the best words come in pairs. You know, I do and not guilty. And right now they're running nose and nose in my book. Then you've got these conferences with mutual support from each other. You've got, you're going to have, you can't get in a ring and you can't get in a fight without taking losses. We lost in Sherry Jackson's case, bless her heart. They're casualties in this war. And when I went into court, I was prepared to suffer the same fate. I was prepared to sacrifice my practice, my bar card. I was prepared, and that to me, that's the ultimate. I can't remember when I didn't plan and want to do exactly what I've been doing all my life. I've always known that my place in this world was that place where the law and the people rub up against each other. And that my role was to make it work. And I've done that, at least for my little part of the world, with my people. And I was willing to give that up. I was willing to be imprisoned. Not because I was a brave man, but because I'm a coward. I would rather suffer all of that and to walk up to that big gate one day and have to admit that I had violated a solemn oath that I had made to support and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America and the state of Louisiana. I made that commitment long before I knew there was a tax problem, and I didn't have any choice but to keep it. Those folks who go up and they make that same sacrifice and they make that same risk, and they didn't have that, are heroes. The ones that are merely keeping a promise are just even with the board. We zeroed the balance out. We kept the promise. The cohesive spirit that I have seen evolving since my first introduction here in Irvine at the Atrium in February of last year has been nothing less than phenomenal. People are, we've had spats, we've had outbreaks. The disappointment over the trial with Sherry Jackson caused one member of the tax honesty community who, while I don't agree with him, and I think that his head's kind of bent into the wrong direction, I've got to admit, and I'll defend his heart is in the right place. But his passion for the movement caused him to lash out at two fine, brilliant trial lawyers, and we don't have enough of them. We shouldn't be stoning the ones we have, because Lord knows we don't have enough of them in this community. But to lash out, criticize, and actually defame and accuse two of the longest term people who stood with this movement since the beginning because they lost a case. I waited until the dust was settled on that, and I waited until he had received a flood of negative responses and a backlash, some of it pretty bitter, and I emailed him. And I told him, what you're doing is divisive, what you're doing is unreasonable. In this particular case, you're wrong. Now, you've got to think about making things right. You've got to think about keeping this movement together and on the same page. And you're not going to do it by going out and stoning the only people that can help you. And I think that you owe these two men an apology. Now, a year and a half ago, I don't know that would have produced a result. But today, everybody is seeing the movement unify. Everybody is seeing the movement grow. And the man wrote and sent to Larry B. Kraft and Jeff Dickstein probably one of the most gracious apologies I've ever seen. He's thinking, we do need to be together. We do need to put our differences aside. And I can't tell you how thrilling that is to me. And I'm telling you now, look at what it's translated into. What has occurred as a result of all of this cohesive spirit? Look at what's happening this year that didn't happen last year. Operation Stop Thief, Truth Attack. How many of you heard of Operation Stop Thief? Oh, Lord. And I thought I was getting the word out. Truth Attack, on April 15, is conducting Operation Stop Thief. Groups all over the country are going to be going out to post offices that stay open late to receive tax returns. These folks who are filing late are filing late. Why? Because they didn't want to get their refund early? They're filing late because they're having to write a check, right? Every one of them's got wet blood on them. And they're standing in, or they've got their car in line at the post office waiting to hand off that tax return and that check. And that line is there all the way from dusk to midnight. And so will be truth troopers and other groups out there holding up signs like that one. Gary, hold up that sign. What income tax? You can't make the message any simpler than that. What income tax? Truthattack.org. They're going to be handing out flyers that said, you've just been scammed by our own government. And it's going to be directing them to all of the websites of all of the coalition members, like this one, to get more information and to learn more about the truth. Now, whenever the television crews go out there to film their obligatory annual live feed from the post office to laugh about the procrastinators, I got a feeling that people are going to be seeing a different story on their news. Now, I set a goal. You always do. You have to say, all right, this is what I want to do. I had a mental goal, which was more of a mental wish, to have 200 post offices covered. That's pretty good, isn't it? Wouldn't 200 be a lot of post offices, a lot of people? Yeah. And but you know, this is the first time out of the chute. A lot of people hadn't heard about it late. You just proved that until late. And so I was willing to settle for 100 on this first run. Okay, that still puts a post office in every major metropolitan area in the country practically. We only got 50 states. It'd be at least 2 in each state, and those probably be the biggest ones. Not a bad deal, huh? Tuesday morning, we shipped out, and what Truth Tech is doing was we're sending out signs, instructions, a checklist, tips for conducting a successful event, do's and don'ts, and a flyer that you can make as many copies of as you want. And we're shipping those absolutely free to every group that's participating in this project. Tuesday morning, Gary Thomason and I went to the post office and we mailed 357 sets of materials out to groups. That was based on Sunday's list of people who have gone to truthattack.org and registered their group. By the time I got home Tuesday afternoon or evening, I checked and there were another 70 groups registered. Already, I expect that Operation Stop Thief is going to have people out there in front, and they're going to have a blast. Because if you follow these instructions, you're going to have fun. Because first off, you're talking to a guy that if it isn't fun, I'm going to be doing something else. And I like funny. I like to laugh. I like to smile. And that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be having themselves a blast. They're going to be taking their teenagers out there with them. Any of their kids that are old enough to stay out until midnight, even though it's a school night. What better lesson in civics can you get to participate in the exercise of your American freedom, what few freedoms you have left? What better chance to show your kids by example and by their participation what it means to be an American, and the fact that our freedom is not the government's responsibility, it's ours. And the government is our responsibility too. So this is going to be a fantastic project. To me, I am absolutely thrilled. Now, how did all this happen? Why was I so short-sighted? I was hoping for 100, wishing for 200. Okay? Low hopes. My late wife used to say, you know, that what good are low hopes? You know, and so here I was being guilty of something that she would not have approved of if she was still here today. But I thought they were pretty stretched. I thought they were pretty far out there. And we're going to go 5 times that. Now, what happened? We've got Truth Attack groups all over. Truth Attack has over 5,000 members, Truth Troopers, in all 50 states. Not 5,000 in each one, but 5,000 in all 50. We're everywhere. We've got groups everywhere. Well, that's pretty good. But we recently took on a new member of the coalition, Restore the Republic, Gary Franchi, George Shepard. And they pitched in and said, okay, guys, let's get behind this project. This is for the good of everybody. This is a good project. Let's get behind it. The next day, we already gained an extra 100 groups logged on within 24 hours after Gary sent out that notice to his people. Let's get behind this project and push it. 100 in 24 hours. We the People groups are signed on. Ron Paul groups are signed on. We've got a lot of Ron Paul groups. Now, I've been working real hard with the Ron Paul organization. I've met with his brother Wayne. Gary has gone over and met with Ron. Met with Ron's number 1. We have tried to get Ron Paul's campaign involved in the tax issue because I believe that's where Ron Paul can kick some tail. Nobody can beat him on the tax issue. He's the only one with a solution. And as long as we advance this tax issue, we're going to be advancing the Ron Paul revolution because we're going to make it more relevant. So we got tons of Ron Paul groups coming on. Libertarian Party groups, Constitution Party groups, even fringers, even groups that are all kind of in the yellow fringe on the flag thing. Those guys are coming on. We're playing, send us a kit, we're going to help. Now that's what I'm talking about. That's unity. That's unity. Let's get behind not only saying let's get it done, let's make it happen, but let's get behind the message too, because it's a Truth Attack message. It's a message no matter what group you're in, you know it's true. And it's one that even the IRS doesn't deny. Libertarian Party, Constitution Party is getting behind it. We've got a lot of Constitution Party groups. American Independence Party, which is part of, they're sort of merged in there. I'm not sure which is which or how that works, but we're getting groups that are calling themselves AIP, group and so, all of them in California. These people are just piling in and saying, yeah, let me help. That wasn't like that whenever I first met this group a year ago. That's how far you've come. And I'm proud of each and every one of you. That's what it's going to take. Now, let me make an announcement here. In order to help boost attendance, just as with Gary Franchi jumping up and saying, hey guys, let's go support that conference. Truth Attack also decided, well, let's have a meetup. At 6 o'clock this evening, across the hall, Truth Attack, Truth Troopers from wherever they are going to meet up. I'm going to drop a few little tips of things. Well, tip my hand a little bit about some of the stuff that's in the pipeline. And we've got some good stuff. We're not only going to keep pushing this political front, we're also going to push the legal front. You've got to have 2 sides or a pair of pliers can't grab the problem. You got to have a hammer, you got to have an anvil. The political part of it is one of them. The legal part is another, and we're working on that. But it's in the pipeline. We've also got other things cooking as far as the political aspects are concerned, and that's what we're working on now. But we'll be talking about some of those and other things at this meetup at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7 this evening, in the meeting room across the hall as you go out of this room. So if you're a Truth Trooper, be there. If you're not a Truth Trooper, go to the back table, sign up as a Truth Trooper, and then be there. It's kind of like, how do you kill a white elephant with a white elephant gun? Well, how do you kill a blue elephant? Oh, I got that back. I messed that up, didn't I? How do you kill a blue elephant with a blue elephant gun? How do you kill a white elephant? You hold his nose till he turns blue and shoot him with a blue elephant gun. All right. I did not check my astrological signs for today. But the fantastic thing is that this year we're seeing so much activity. We're seeing groups that are finding the courage because they know you're behind them. They know that they're behind each other. They know RTR knows that Freedom Law School will back it up. Freedom Law School knows RTR will back it up. Free Enterprise Society knows that Truth Attack and all the rest of us, we're going to back them up. Now that's how America started. The reason that we are free is not because we longed to be free. The reason America is free, or used to be, is that it was already free. It was so far from England, it was pretty much left to its own devices. People in America, American colonists, had only themselves and each other to count on. That was freedom. And whenever that freedom got threatened, they weren't fighting to get it, they were fighting to keep it. You don't fight to get something you never had a taste of. I mean, you might not like it. But they had a taste of freedom and they did like it. And they fought to keep it. Well, that freedom came from independence. That freedom came from confidence in themselves. That they didn't need a big brother to take care of them or tell them how to think or what to speak or how to do this or where to do that. That they didn't need a Mother England to rule their lives because they were quite sufficient, thank you. And so these groups now are starting to see themselves as a big group. And that's what has to happen. And they're seeing each other as somebody that they can go shoulder to shoulder with. And that they know that nobody's got their left flank because that guy's got me covered. Can get to my right flank because that one's got me covered. We're together, we're united, and we are going to take it to them. We're going to make it happen. And that's what gives the confidence of these groups to stand up and start having projects and doing things. Activism. Something's happening. People are becoming aware of these issues, and they're becoming aware they're genuine issues. They're not frivolous issues. They're not made-up issues. They're not Looney Tune issues. They're not tax protester issues. None of us here protest a single tax. All we're saying is follow the law. You leave me my due, I'll give you yours. Genuine, honest to God issues. Now, everybody once upon a time knew that the earth was flat. Okay? I got that from Gary. I love it. Everybody knew the earth was flat. You brought up Galileo earlier. Copernicus, I think, was in there. But they used to not just excommunicate people for saying that the earth was not the center of the universe. They would kill them, burn them at the stake. So what are we doing? Now, Jeff Dickstein drew a parallel for you this morning that was absolutely perfect. And the parallels between the Inquisition and the current situation that we have. And we're not free to say what we believe. We're not free to read the law. And back then, they weren't free to read the Bible either. They had to take what the Bible said strictly from their pastors. And I will say, just to tick off pastors in some places, God bless America. God bless the real America, and that's you folks. Now, he drew this very, very well done, well supported parallel between the Inquisition and the suppression and tyranny and where we are now. So that same parallel can be used to demonstrate what we have a problem with in people getting burned at the stake here. People are getting burned as heretics because they believe that there is no law that makes them liable. And the law has to be specific. It has to be plain and clear. If it doesn't make you liable, if you can't tell for 100%, then you're not liable. We know that. But for believing that, we can go to prison. They don't burn them at the stake anymore. They just ruin your lives. They take everything you have or ever will have. They lock you away. That's not exactly a healthy country either. So what can we do about that is we have juries. With the Inquisition, you didn't have the benefit of a jury. If you were it, you were it. So we have juries. If juries know that there is a debate, they don't have to understand about Section 1. They don't have to understand about 1461. They don't have to understand the intricacies of what is an individual or how is it defined or where is it defined or not. They don't have to understand any of this stuff. They don't have to understand sovereignty. They don't have to understand what the word coextension means. They don't have to understand any of that. All they have to know, and all we have to make them know, is that there are genuine issues about this. And if a person is on a jury and he knows that there is a genuine issue, that the government may be lying at this trial, and that maybe this guy is telling the truth, they're not going to convict him. They're not going to send him off to prison. We're going to stop the political prisoners simply by making people aware that there's an issue. And some of those people are going to dig into the books and find out what you and I already know. And then they're going to become part of this community. Some of them won't, but they'll be aware that there's a genuine and real issue. And they'll stop burning heretics at the stake. And they'll start looking perhaps to find out, is this heretic telling the truth? Because Galileo sure was. Copernicus sure was. They were right. The earth is round. It is not flat, okay? And that day's going to come for the tax movement. But it's going to take pushing. It's going to take pulling along. Now, I want to make a little suggestion here. And you can spread this about too. The government is about to do us a wonderful favor in their, out of their good grace. They've already decided how much of our money we should be allowed to keep by taking how much of our money, deciding how much they're going to take. So that means they're controlling 100% of our labor. And if your labor isn't yours, what are you? That's right. So they're about to do something very generous toward their slaves. They're going to cut a check and send it out. This $600 rebate. Now, this isn't money you were counting on to pay the rent. This isn't money that you had budgeted last year because we didn't know about it. But wouldn't it be ironic if the money that they're handing out to keep us quiet, to keep us happy slaves, was used instead to finance the battle? What I want to do is ask each and every one of you, and I don't care what it is, because every one of them is a genuine, needed organization, and they're playing a vital role in this movement. I want all of you to, when you get back on your computers, to start emailing people and suggest to them that they contribute that $600, either in whole or in part, to an organization, any organization. Jeff Dickstein needs it more than anybody. Truth Attack needs it as much as Jeff Dickstein does. It's a race. I'm borrowing money. He would borrow it if he could, but when you're broke, nobody will loan you money. But how far would that go? If you were to start shoveling the money that they are feeding you like candy to a kid. Here's some candy, kid, go away, don't bother me. Well, I'll take this candy all right. I got your candy hanging, sucker. I'm gonna pile this candy up in a big pile. All of us are gonna take this candy. We're gonna take it down to the bully on the end of the block. We're gonna hire him to come down here and kick your butt. So, spread the word on that. Let's just see what we can do with that. When you get yours in, if you're getting one, think about it. You don't have to give it all to one. Divide it up among a couple or three. Truth Tech at the top. Jeff Dickstein right close right there. But, contribute, with that. Let them pay for their own demise. Now, I promised I was going to open this thing up, but I've got a quick demonstration I want to make, and it's one of the problems that we've got with this community, and why I think that unity that we are seeing now that we didn't have a year ago is such a great thing. Can I get a demonstrator front and center? Gary Thomason, front and center. No, I just volunteered him. That's what a guy told me a while back. It's called being voluntold. Let me introduce you to Gary Thomason. Gary Thomason is president of Truth Attack. I'm the official bottle washer. And Gary has been, like I said, he's been on this from the get-go. Everything that's going out, he's had his hand on it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. No way I could have done, or the group could have done this without his help. And no way I could do what I'm about to do now without his help. All right, now, I want to show you something here. This is the organization I found. And I used this to demonstrate that a while back. It's an open hands, going in 15 different directions, but it was really a lot worse than that. It was like the fingers were broken. And this is what we need. Can you all see that? We need to roll these fingers into a fist. But this is the way it was. Some of them were flopping around in the breeze over here. Some of them were like this. And we were attacking the IRS, right? Now watch this. Now watch. Now you're the IRS, Gary. Okay? Is that as sinister as you can look?
Well, I could get a tinfoil hat.
Get in the roll here, okay? Get in the roll. All right, now, is that IRS or what? There he goes. All right, now watch. Show me the law. Where am I liable? I don't have any income. Did that hurt you?
Every bit.
You get it for real? Did that hurt?
Not a bit.
Didn't hurt you a bit? Did it hurt your feelings? No, you don't have any feelings either, do you? You're IRS. Okay. Now, that was us, okay? That's it. That's us. But suppose that you took that same amount of wood, and I don't have something with that same amount of wood, but you take the same amount of wood that's in this box, and you piled it up on one point. And there's less wood. I can tell you this box weighs a lot more than this pencil. But now, you saw how hard I struck him with a box. I'm not going to strike him any harder with the pencil. Okay? So the same amount of force that we've been exerting before. But watch and see if it makes any difference. Okay? Now, you ready? You give up? No blood?
No blood.
Have I made my point? Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Hey, Gary's back there. He can sign you up for Truth Tech this afternoon so that you can come to the meetup tonight. We're going to have hoovy doovies. One guy wrote me and said, what the heck is a hoovy doovie? And it's going to be real light hoovy doovies. Pete, over here. I said, a hoovy doovie, some of them things on them trays there, you pass around. Ain't you got no sophistication? I spelled S-O-F-I-S. Those are hoovy doovies. We're going to have some chips and stuff out and coffee. But most of all, we're just going to be getting to know one another. Because we've got a lot of work to do, and the more we know each other, the better we know each other, and how to get in touch with each other, the better job we're going to do. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of things that Truth Tech's going to be doing. Now, I want to open it up for Q&A. Anybody got any questions they want to ask? Yes, sir, right here. Let's start at the front. Stand up and say it very loud. Oh, you got a mic?
There's a mic right there.
All right, sir.
Let's see, right here. Hello? Check one. Hey. Just real briefly, can you please tell us about your case?
Okay, the trial was in July. We started on the 9th and we ended up on the 11th, 3 days. They put their case on fairly briefly. I testified on the second day that afternoon. It was apparent that they did not expect the impact that my testimony had on the jury. The judge, as a matter of fact, was a bit upset about it. And the judge and the prosecutor had done everything they could to keep me from telling the jury the truth. But Larry and I, both of us being trial lawyers, I think that we would take different angles. They would block something, and then we'd take a different angle. And I would recognize what he was trying to do because I've been where he was. He'd never been where I was. I'd never been where I was, but I'd been where he was. So when he would start asking questions, I would recognize what he was trying to do, and we'd get it passed. And one of the traps that we had set for them was that they had filed a motion in limine asking that I not be allowed to testify that either the income tax law was unconstitutional or that I didn't owe taxes because I disagreed with the law. Jeff can tell you those are two exceptions to the cheek defense. So he kept making objections on that basis, and after he did that about 3 times, then I count 15. Yes, I do. After a time of that, I signaled Larry when he dropped the call. He asked me, he said, Mr. Cryer, do you think you're not required to pay taxes or to file tax returns because you believe that the code, Internal Revenue Code, is unconstitutional? I said, no, I do not. He said, do you believe that you're not required to pay taxes or file tax returns because you disagree with the law? No, I do not. It shut him up for 45 minutes, and we were able to testify for 45 minutes without interruption before they could come up with something else. But the judge was not happy. He saw in front of me a notebook, and in that notebook I had this much material that I had culled down by tearing out all the pages that didn't have highlights on them. And they were cases and statutes and IRM excerpts and forms and all kinds of materials that I had to be able to refer to make sure that I got it exactly right. And as it turned out, I didn't use it. But he had it in front of me. I had it in front of me. And he demanded to examine that. He said, I want to examine that notebook that's in front of Mr. Cryer. So we handed it over. And he went through it, and the farther he went through it, I think the more he realized that everything that I had said was probably more as verbatim as it could have been had I read it. Because I used to have, at least, one of those photographic, memories. And so he ordered us then to turn these cases and statutes and forms and government printing things over to the government as discovery. And the judgment hadn't even asked for discovery. He said, don't you want discovery? He said, oh, yes, sir, you can bet. So he ordered us to turn this over. Well, also included in that book was the entire game plan for the trial, my entire outline. And it included even pointing out that I wanted to save certain points for cross-examination. Normally, you bring those points out in your direct so that they can't say, aha, because it's too late. You already brought it out. But I saved these several things. Well, that told the prosecutor there'd only be one thing. There's got to be a trapdoor underneath every one of them. He didn't touch a single one of them the next morning. What should have been a 2 or 3 hour cross-examination was over in 15 minutes. And it went on out. So then that basically then went to argument. Larry did a brilliant job of arguing the case. The jury went out, and they came back so fast that I could feel the cold metal on my wrist. If any of you know what a pucker factor is, you could not have driven a 4-penny nail with a sledgehammer. And then that clerk reads the verdict out, not guilty. I'm still holding my breath because there are 2 of them. What if this is a compromise? The second one comes back, not guilty. And at that particular point, I came very, very close to levitating. All right, another question?
Tommy, congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
But there's one hitch for receiving and getting the $600. You got to file a 2007 return.
I do. Well, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not in my case. But I will tell you this. It's kind of like the warnings on TV. Don't try this at home, boys and girls. If you're considering becoming a non-filer, you'd best do what I call a pre-induction physical. You best make sure that you can handle it. Make sure that you know enough. You have to have a complete grasp of the law and the basis for your position. You have to be willing to lose it all and be satisfied that you did the right thing, even though you lost everything you ever had, ever will have, ever hope to have, and your freedom on top of that. If you're not prepared to do that, then you're not prepared, and you probably shouldn't even consider becoming a non-filer. Yes, sir. I think one more, and then I've got just a couple of remarks I want to make before we go.
Okay, the question is, what was the name of your group, the Truth?
Truthattack.org is where you would go.
Okay.
It's like giving the government a truth attack instead of what I had, a heart attack.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, I guess my comment is more of a statement than anything else. Going along with the truth attack and everybody joining together, I'm glad that you brought up the unity thing, and the reason is because you see all these different events that happen around the country, and I'll be specific, and that would be the Ed and Elaine Brown case in New Hampshire. I thought in my mind that thing could have been stopped in its tracks by people coming together and actually going to that place.
I still don't understand your question.
It's more of a comment to what you said about the truth attack. We need people to come together, unite.
Well, and I appreciate that, and that's really what we're doing. Of course, now we don't all play the same role. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say that people need to go and defend the guy who's in trouble. I know there's a couple in New Mexico that could use the help.
That's right.
And
there are a lot of people.
When it comes time for them to go to court, there should be a calling, like a Minuteman thing, where 1,000 or 10,000 men and women could show up and give them that support. The media can't.
It's one of the things, but
they can't hide from it.
You know, it's one of the things Truth Attack works on is in doing courtroom fills where they're requested, but that's something you have to be very careful of, because you can make yourself look a lot worse if you have folks that pile in too many and folks that pile in a threatening manner. In my trial, we had a courtroom full. We had probably 20 people there. Wasn't a very big spectator section, but we had about 20 people there. Gary rode herd on them. He had very, very precise instructions on what to do, what not to do, and they performed brilliantly. They sat there very quietly. They never uttered a word. They never made a gesture. They never did a thing, and they presented themselves as nothing but officers, scholars, and gentlemen, every one. And they made a good impression for you, and that's what we have to work on. Now, finally, I've got one comment I want to close with. The country that we have inherited wasn't free. It was paid for with the blood, sweat, suffering, devotion, dedication of a lot of good men. The preservation of that country was not free. Benjamin Rush in 1781, following Yorktown's surrender, or the surrender at Yorktown by Cornwallis, said the war for American independence is over, but the American Revolution has only begun. It has been the task of every generation of Americans ever since to continue that fight. We have fought enemies near and far. We fought them as close as our own border with Mexico. We fought them as far away as Asia and Europe. But the most sinister, the most threatening, the most dire threat that this country has ever come under before is not from abroad. It's from right here. There's already been a coup occurred. Our government has been taken over by an oligarchy, just as was predicted by our founding fathers if we were not diligent. We trusted the government to know what was right instead of what to do what we told them to do. And they used that to take advantage of it. And we've got to put it back in the box. We have a right to waive our rights. You have a right to waive every right you have. I have a right to waive mine, but I have no right to waive your grandson's rights. I have no right to waive our great-grandchildren's rights. I have an obligation, and we all have an obligation to preserve those rights, to preserve that freedom, the freedom that is so, you cannot listen to Jeff Dickstein's presentation this morning without knowing just exactly how much trouble this country is in. Berlin is in Washington, D.C. We've got to drive them back to Berlin. And that's not going to happen without sacrifice. We had casualties this year. Sherry Jackson, the Matthews case. We're going to have casualties next year. They're going to be sacrifices. And some of us will sacrifice time. Some of us will sacrifice our freedom. Some of us will sacrifice money. But unless all of us contribute to this effort, each and every one of us contributes to this effort, we're going down. Your grandchildren are going to live a life under tyranny. The middle class is going to evaporate from this country, and we will have nothing but a ruling class and a working class. And we will all become officially slaves because they don't need to pretend anymore. My point that I want to leave you with is, what sacrifice is too great? How much? Now, I was committed. I didn't have a choice. I had to be prepared to sacrifice what I put on the table. I made that commitment 25 years before I knew there was a problem. But what sacrifice are we willing to make? How much is too much of a price for that? Financially, time-wise, effort-wise? If you have a group, what's it been doing? We've been moving. And finally, the last point I want to make with you, and I want to wake up anybody who hadn't figured this out yet. Last year, we were talking the talk when I was here. This year, we're walking the walk. And it's time, I'm telling you, it's time for each and every one of us, me included. I put in 20 hours a day. If I can, I'll put in 21. But every one of us has to contribute to this in one way or another. Get out there and walk the walk with us, and let's get it back. The tax issue is only the beginning. It's only the Normandy. Then you got to take the Fed. Then you've got the two beasts that had spawned on all of these departments of the federal government. It doesn't belong there. And we've got to kill the spawn. We've got to kill the nestlings. And we've got to put the beast back into the box. We've got to make him get back where he belongs. And he's got to turn loose of our state legislators so they'll start following our will. He's got to get out of our schools. He's got to get out of our homes. He's got to get out of our neighborhoods. And if we don't do it, it isn't going to happen. It's almost past, if it isn't already past the point of no return, it's almost there. We cannot leave this to our children to try to do, because it'll be too late. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Paiman, for having me over. And thank you all.